Hello, everybody. This is Philosophy 74 Ethics, and we are back after, right? I mean, we met last time was March 10th, Tuesday the 10th, that we met. Then there was the interruption because of, right, the emergency situation, the COVID 19 pandemic, and so we are back today, March 19th, Thursday, March 19th, to the class. So I will, every class, I will basically upload a short video. I don't want it to be too long because it would be too much, perhaps, for all of you. I imagine that you are very busy, very worried with many things, right? But we try our best. We try to continue and finish the class, in a meaningful way. And so let's go back. I mean, we had started with Plato, Socrates and Plato, right? We had read certainly sections from the Euthyphro and something from the Apology. I also spoke about that. I mean, the general theme of this part of the class, right? Week 1 to week 4 is the distinction between ethics and the law. So we started with Socrates and Plato, and actually I had a chance when we were still meeting face to face to also tell you about Socrates and Plato's, especially a theory of ideas or forms and how that is applied to the question of ethics to remember with Euthyphro the idea of the just, the idea of the good, and so on and so forth. Okay, so but we'll continue today with actually this week, March 17th, and today 19th. We were supposed to read both and discuss Sophocles' Antigone and Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail. So what I decided to do with the other classes too, I hope that I think this is the best way and probably works the best for all of us, for all of you, especially in terms then of doing the writing assignments, is to I will highlight a few important points, maybe even 1 or 2 points for each reading that we are supposed to do. For example, today I'll touch on, I will tell you, I will give some pointers, highlight one section, a few lines from the Antigone, and then maybe one passage, a couple of passages from Martin Luther King's letter. Okay, so but the framework, the general framework is the same. We are right. I mean, considering and examining this distinction, the split very often, and at times also the conflicts between ethics and the law or the moral law. And although this is redundant, right, the legal law, the human made law. So, in any case, also pay attention to the fact that I put on Blackboard under discussions. You go to the left side of your home page for Blackboard, right? You find this link, discussions. You click on it, and then you will find a discussion board forum. So every week I will give, post a question or a suggestion for you to write something about. Okay, you will write a short comment, a few ideas about what I say, about the question that I put there. Or if you have, if you want to write about something different from the material, from the text, if you want to select, choose a different passage, sentence, line, or quote, you can do that as well. Okay, but it is important that you do so every week. Write something. This is part of. It's an alternative for. Right, the face-to-face type of participation that we might have otherwise might have had in class otherwise. Okay, the discussion, And then, of course, the writing assignment is as the syllabus says. So keep actually always in mind what the syllabus says, because we'll try to follow the original syllabus as much as we can, right? So the first essay for the first part of the class, the first 4 weeks of the class, is due on by Thursday, April 2nd, by email. You will email that to me, okay? Whereas the discussion board forum will be, your comment will be uploaded to Blackboard, okay? So in any case, um, the keywords for this week, right, week 3, uh, on the syllabus are precisely, unwritten and unchanging laws. This is what we are going to see in Antigone, and also to an extent, and also in Martin Luther King in his letter. Okay, so in in the Antigone, let me go there. If you go to um, line, okay, so line 360 in the margin of the text, right? You have these numbers, right? More or less line 360, 355, 365, when Antigone and Creon are speaking, right? So the question is, Antigone is Oedipus' daughter and half sister, and her brothers, right, Polynices and Eteocles, as they fight against one another, then they kill one another at the same time. Creon, who is Antigone's uncle and new king of Thebes, makes this decree, this emergency law, whereby anyone who's going to bury Polynices, one of the brothers, is going to be executed in turn, because the idea is that Eteocles was, these are the two brothers, okay? They are all Oedipus children, Antigone, Polynices, Eteocles, and then also Ismene, who is part of, also has a part in the play. We can't go too deep into this. In any case, read the whole thing, is also, yeah, relatively short and a beautiful read, and also pay attention to the highlighted parts that I highlighted. Okay, so in any case, Eteocles was fighting on the side of Creon, the new king of Thebes, whereas Polynices against them. So they kill Eteocles, Polynices, the two brothers, kill one another. So one is buried with all proper burial rites, Eteocles, and the other one is left unburied, you know, so that all the birds and could do anything with his body, corpse, and so on. So this is the decree that Creon makes. No one is going to be able to bury this guy. But Antigone then says, no, this is my brother. I had to, of course, bury him. There is a higher law. Basically, the idea is this, okay? I mean, the law made by the king is no law at all, has no legitimacy whatsoever, is an empty, unjust, as we will see with Martin Luther King too, law. So it doesn't count as law. There is a higher law. Let's call it, right, because the law, the human-made law, is usually also called positive law. The other one can be natural law, divine law, the law of ethics, the law of humanity, whatever, right? So, but Antigone says there is a law that is higher than the human-made law. So she's arguing against the king, Creon, who is also her uncle, and she says, I'm going to do, I had to do the right thing. Okay, the right thing is to bury my brother. Okay, so this is not only about Polynices being her brother, but it is also a universal type of law, a universal type of principle, of course. Also, what we see in Antigone, in this wonderful, right, tragedy from ancient Greece, written by Sophocles, is an early example, if you will, of what today we call civil disobedience. Okay, so we will problematize that even more. I mean, we would do more so in a face-to-face type of situation in class, but remember that there is this important element in Antigone, then of course in Martin Luther King, of civil disobedience. Okay, so civil disobedience is when the law is challenged and even broken for reasons of for a higher reasons, right? Because evidently the law is unjust. And so Antigone, so when Creon says, this is again line 355, 357 in the text, okay, find that. Creon says, and yet you dare defy the law. Antigone answers, yes, of course, I dared. It was not God's proclamation, right? That final justice that rules the world below makes no such laws. Okay, so there is a higher order of the law, and these laws are completely different from the human-made laws. Okay, your edicts, right? The decree, the law that Creon made, king was strong, but all your strength, right, is Antigone is telling Creon, all your strength is weakness itself against the immortal, unrecorded laws of God. They are not merely now, they were and shall be. Okay, so these are the unchanging, unwritten, unchanging laws that Antigone is speaking about. They are operative forever, beyond man, utterly, right? And then she continues, she says, I knew I must die even without your decree. I am only mortal, which is an important concept in the Greek tradition. I mean, the question of being mortal, that's the human condition, right? And if I must die now, before it is my time to die, surely this is no hardship. Can anyone living as I live, with evil all about me, think that's less than a friend? Okay, so I stop the reading here. You go back and see it. This is also very close to what Socrates, right, says about death as he himself is facing. We saw that during, in the Apology, his self-defense at the trial. And then he is going to be sentenced to death and ultimately executed. But he has the same attitude. Okay, the most important thing is not living or dying, but it is living the right way. And ultimately, that Socrates also says maybe the best of all blessings, and so on and so forth. Okay, so because I don't want to keep you too long, and I know this time is a bit longer because we, missed the class last time, so we had to do Antigone and also King, Martin Luther King. So, but I want to now shift to Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail. And if you go to page 3 of your text, the top of page 3, right? Again, it's highlighted by me, right? Where he says, the first highlight, okay, he says there are two types of laws, okay? There are just laws, right? And there are unjust laws. I would agree, he says now, Martin Luther King, with St. Augustine. He's quoting St. Augustine, who is one of the most important philosophers at the beginning of the medieval tradition, right? In a Christian philosopher, one of the founding fathers of the church, okay? A saint in the Catholic tradition. And he says, I would agree with St. Augustine that, and he quotes, an unjust law is no law at all. This is St. Augustine in at the beginning of the Middle Ages, okay? And then he continues speaking precisely about the difference between the human-made uh, nature of the law, or he says a just law is a man-made code that squares with the moral law or the law of God. Okay, for Martin Luther King, there is this possibility of a coincidence. I mean, a human-made law is just if it coincides with the higher law, for King, of course, made by God. And then he quotes St. Thomas Aquinas, another medieval philosopher in the Christian tradition, right? And then he, at one point, you will see as you read, because we can't read everything together now. But he also quotes Socrates. I mean, he speaks about, and actually Socrates, when he mentions Socrates, he does so in the spirit of, he doesn't use the expression, but in the spirit of the concept of the civil disobedience that I spoke about earlier, okay? And of course, the letter is written in the context of the civil rights movement against the segregation laws of the South. I want to call attention to, and then I finish here because it's been already, it's already 15 minutes. But, if you go to page 4, more or less in the middle, but again, you will see the highlighting that I did. He says this is very fundamental in Martin Luther King as well, and also in what we are problematizing, right? I mean, the question of the distinction between just and unjust law, or rather, as I say, ethics and the law, okay? So he says at one point, oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever, right? So this is very important, and we are going to go back to this as well in the next um, uh, classes. I mean, certainly, the next class that we will have next week, week 4, will be on the philosophy of Immanuel Kant and his categorical imperative, and this is still part of the section of the class which is called again ethics and the law. Okay, so we will still again we will speak again about the question of the universality of the ethics, basically, how and the question for us is if there are really universal principles of ethics. This is what I want you to think about as well. Okay, so then I hope that you are all well and stay safe, and I will see you next time, which is probably next time will be Tuesday, March 24th. Okay, all right, thank you, bye.